What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Rutgers Rundown podcast, episode number 14. Nick Hart alongside my co-host Matthew C. Mangam. Matt, a lot going on in the world of Rutgers sports this week. We have some Rutgers soccer, both men's and women's, Rutgers football starting their conference slate. And of course, I mean, you don't really think about it, but basketball season right around the corner. We had basketball media day today. Got to speak to Coach Peichel, some of the players. So a lot to break down in this episode, so let's jump right in, Matt. Rutgers men's soccer, who was on, a little bit of an up-and-down start to the season, but a very nice win to start Big Ten play with a 1-0 victory over Penn State.
Well, I got to say, Nick, they bounced back from that 3-1 Princeton defeat with a great win over Penn State. Penn State's a team they haven't beaten in 2 years, so that's a good win right there. And, I mean, can I just talk about Yoshi Shelb? What a goal. What an outstanding free kick. His sixth goal of the season, and Rutgers takes the 1-0 win in the Big Ten opener. I mean, that guy's fantastic, man.
I mean, essentially, he's the entire Rutgers offense, right? I mean, he has 6 goals in the season, leads the team, one of 2 players to have multiple goals, and pretty much put that free kick where nobody else could get it except the back of the net.
Yeah, it was perfect. Even like for me, like, I've watched college soccer. You don't see that very often. That was like a professional like free kick. It was really, really good.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of expect that from a player like Shelb because knowing what he is to this team. Look at this. You look at the box score, just insane. 9 shots, 4 shots on goal, and a goal. He was the only player for the Scarlet Knights with multiple shots on goal. Was only one of 2 players, along with Andrew Kitch, who had multiple shot attempts, and he played 83 minutes.
I mean, 4 shots on goal. That's another thing. Like, he was testing the Penn State keeper a lot, Evans, forcing Evans into a lot of saves. So Shelb was the main man of that attack. And like I said, I remember last episode, against Princeton, I could see that. Princeton shut him down. He had chances, yes, but they shut him down. This game against Penn State, it looked like he was going to be shut down again. But then that's the thing. He gets a free kick. So he's not just dangerous from open play, he's also dangerous from set pieces.
Well, I mean, I feel like if you're an opposing team, that has to be your mindset, right? It has to be, hey, we have to stop Yoshi Shelb. Number 10 gets the ball. He cannot do anything with it. And I think that's where Penn State faltered was every time that Yoshi Shelb had the ball, it felt like he could impact the game. No matter where he was, whether he was, inside the 18, outside the 18, no matter where he was making plays, and there's 2 ways to look at this, right? You look at one and you say, wow, this player is exceptional. Can't believe he's here at Rutgers. This is awesome. Then you kind of look at the other side and you say, well, nobody else has stepped up. And once you start to get into Big Ten play, you start playing some of these better ranked teams, probably not going to be able to let just one guy beat you.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit worrisome, but I have faith in guys like Dan Carson still. I think Dan Carson's been kind of like, not the striker, he's a winger, but 2 goals, 2 assists. I think he can get some more goals. I also think someone like Jude Essuman off the bench is really, really good. He brings good energy. And someone like Andrew Kitch, I'm trying to find his name when I'm looking at the stats, but yeah, he got his first career goal, against James Madison. But I think he'll also get another goal in there or 2 in there. Good striker, physical, big up top, wins a lot of headers, wins a lot of aerial duels. But there definitely is some concern. I mean, you look at the stats overall for the team, and Yoshi Shelb has 14 shots on goal. And then after that, it's 5 from Andrew Kitch, 3 from Dan Carson. And so it's like there's definitely a big drop-off. So, that is probably what you could say a concern. But sometimes teams are able to do good with just one player performing really, really well. Sometimes that's not the case, but sometimes it is, where one guy is the whole show and teams can still win with him doing well.
Yeah, I mean, and, tough stretch coming up. You go on the road, and you're home for a little bit. You play FDU, Ohio State, Monmouth at home, but first you have to go on the road to Northwestern. And then you come back, and it is, full steam ahead. Michigan, Wisconsin, Maryland, Washington, all over the place. So good win for Rutgers men's soccer in their opener. And listen, with a 4-1-1 overall record, I mean, you really can't be upset.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's definitely no reason to be disappointed with this team or be nervous. They were projected to be, I think, probably last or second to last in the Big Ten this year because the past few years they've been under 500. So it's been really tough, but the way they started this year is really, really promising. And I think the way they bounced back after that Princeton loss, beating Penn State was huge. That was, home Big Ten home opener, off your first loss of the season. Penn State, obviously, game means a little bit more. And they got a clean sheet. They got the win, too. So really impressive.
Well, we move over now to women's soccer. So it was a doubleheader at Ursac Field on Friday. Both Big Ten home openers for men's and women's. The women played to a 1-1 draw against Michigan State. They finally break the 300-plus minute streak of not scoring an open play. Nata Ramirez nets her second goal of the season and also breaks a 6-way tie for the leading goal scorer on the Scarlet Knights team.
Yeah, I mean, kind of looking at it like glass half full type of situation. The result, it's a little disappointing. It's, their fourth straight tie? So yeah, fourth straight tie. That's Princeton, Air Force, UConn, and now Michigan State. Fourth straight tie. But they do end the scoring drought, so there's pros and cons there. But you kind of sit back and you're like, another tie. But then also, on the other hand, you could be like, Michigan State was a really good team last year. They were ranked number 1 at one point last year. Rutgers tied with them on the road. Then they were still ranked, I believe, heading into the Big Ten tournament, and Rutgers knocked them out there in golden goal in the first round, and they still were a good team to beat. And now this season, not the best start so far. They were on a 2-game losing streak heading into last Friday's game, but it's still a decent team. You want more from the result, but it's not a bad result overall. It's just kind of, I think, coming into the game on the goalless drought, on the tying drought, it's a little bit more, or the tying streak, I should say, is a little bit more disappointing. But the result overall isn't really worrisome to me, honestly.
Well, Matt, you and I were both at that game. And my biggest takeaway from this matchup is Rutgers still looks like I don't want to say it looks like a fire drill out there on offense, but you look at the chance that Nata Ramirez had, the only reason she scored is because the goalie misplayed the ball. She took advantage, easy chip into the goal.
Yeah.
The set offense and the offensive sets have not been there for Rutgers. The possession hasn't been there. The passing hasn't been crisp. And I feel like that should be the biggest concern going into Big Ten play. You look at the non-conference slate and you kind of see that as your opportunity to figure out some of the kinks that the team might have. And it doesn't seem that way for Rutgers. There's no preseason when it comes to college sports. I've said this time and time again. So your non-conference slate is typically your preseason to figure things out, figure out rotations, figure out starters. And I just feel like the Scarlet Knights haven't done that.
Yeah, honestly, you're totally right. I think the defense I have full faith in. Bodmer I have full faith in. That's no problem. But the midfield and the offense is a little bit worrisome. Yeah, the midfield kind of struggles to keep the ball, move forward, create chances. And then the offense struggles to either score the chances or just have that final touch in the final third. It's still a work in progress. I'm quoting Sean over here at the defense, but
exactly.
It's a work in progress. But the problem is now we're getting into late September almost, and this offense still isn't really.
It's non-existent.
Yeah,
let's be real.
Yeah, the offense isn't really there. The offense isn't really threatening. The offense isn't really. I don't even know. It's just not much to say about it. There's not much to say about it because, players like Ali Post have been off to a slow start this season. Ashley Barron has a goal, but still not much. She also hasn't got as much minutes as other players. But Nata Ramirez is definitely the player that, if you're going to look at Rutgers and say who's going to make an impact, it's going to be her. 2 goals, 2 assists. But the problem is, unlike the men's team, they're winning games with that still, with Joshi Shelp still in there. He's scoring more, but the problem is Ramirez isn't contributing enough, and no one else is contributing either.
Yeah, and listen, Rutgers, to their credit, they scored in the 17th minute of the first half. They played with the lead for a majority of the game, and then they just continued to give the ball away to Michigan State. Michigan State scores in the 66th minute, and it's not a recipe for success. Scoring 1 goal and in 4 games in open play, whatever it was, not a recipe for success, especially not in the Big Ten. And you have to think the schedule only is going to get harder from here. So for them, for the women's team, on the road against Minnesota, and they're back home for a game against Indiana. And then you're on the road for 2 straight games, September 25th and 28th against UCLA and USC.
Yeah, those games are going to be really hard. Both those teams are really good.
And then you're not back home until October 4th. And not to mention, UCLA was the team that Rutgers lost to last year in the Big Ten championship.
Yes, and USC was ranked number 4. They beat USC on pens, but those teams are like top 5. I mean, I don't know about this year, but last year they were like top 5 programs to beat in the country.
So with that, we'll move into another team that's starting their Big Ten slate on Friday. Rutgers football team. Matt, that was a game. I don't know how else to describe it. Rutgers beats Norfolk State 60-10. Very much so what we expected. Norfolk was not a good team. Rutgers was a solid team. And I will say this, very strange game. Very strange game. First 2 touchdowns, actually, were both block punts for Rutgers. Mm-hmm. And then the extra point was blocked in the first touchdown. And it was just a crazy game all around. 2 blocked punts, 2 blocked extra point attempts. And that's all I could say about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the offense did what it needed to do. AJ Race got in the game, and he made his collegiate debut.
Yeah, AJ Surace and Sean Ashenfelder.
Yeah, Sean Ashenfelder too.
Debuts.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw a lot of people in this game, and it's nice to see because you saw guys like Michael Thomas get their first touchdown. You saw Dino Kaliakmanis get his first touchdown.
Yeah.
Vernon Allen got some time, even though he did go down with an injury. And that's what I want to get into with you, Matt. The injuries just keep piling up for the Scarlet Knights team. A team that was already down Dante Chin is also now down Tyler Needham, who, oh, by the way, was the backup left tackle to begin with.
Yeah. And also, don't forget, Ian Strong was ruled out. We don't really know the full status on that, if he's going to play Friday.
I was going to say, we'll stick with the non-skill position first, and then we'll get into the skill position.
Yeah.
Because there's a slew of injuries there. But here's my thought process in the left tackle position, right? Dante Chin and Tyler Needham both were kind of fighting for that spot going into the start of the season. So you can kind of look at them as 1A and 1B, but who comes in place of that?
You know better than I would, but I don't even know. I have no
honestly,
answer for you.
I don't even know if they know who's going to be in that spot comes Friday night. It seems to be something that happens with Rutgers every year, and I don't know if it's just a coincidence, whatever it might be, but Rutgers has to find a way to stay healthier because another big player that went down, well, might as well just get into the skill positions now.
Yeah, might as well. There's so many.
Ian Strong was announced pregame that he would not be playing. He was out with an injury. And the way that Greg Schiano talked about that, it didn't seem like it was a little like, oh, he was nicked up, he was banged up. It seemed like there's something bigger going on with Ian Strong.
Yeah. Schiano actually seemed concerned. I think he said something like the cause for concern's high. Don't know if he'll play Friday. He's been asked this week. He was asked after the Norfolk State game. He was asked Monday at his pre-game presser, and he still has no answer. So I think the only thing is we'll see on Friday on the availability report if Strong's name is there or not. If it is, Rutgers fans, I think obviously worry somewhat, but also I think the wide receiver room is pretty good. But there's still room for concern. Obviously, that's your best receiver out, and they don't really disclose a lot of information. We don't know what the injury is. We don't know anything. We just know that he's out.
The only injuries you're going to know what they are is watching them happen on the field. And that brings me to my next point, CJ Campbell Jr., who I don't think this can be understated enough. He and Antoine Raymond really have been the heartbeat of the running game. Raymond has had a great year. Don't get me wrong. He had 16 attempts, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. In last week's game, averaged just under 5 yards per carry. But CJ Campbell kind of brought a different running style, and it was nice to see a little bit of a switch up. Now, granted, you have Jayshon Benjamin, who was excellent in that game. He had 68 yards and a touchdown. But then again, that's a position where depth was the strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're down a guy, and who do you go to? Ed Guerrier was kind of the guy that ended up getting more of the rushes as the third back. Sam Brown still continues to be a question mark. Nobody really knows what Sam Brown's return is. Nobody knows what his injury status is. He dresses for the games, but he's listed as questionable every week. So another big question mark going up against an Iowa team who historically always has a good defense. This year, it's I think as we sit right now, it's probably one of the top 5 defenses in all of college football. And an offense for Iowa that, they might not be known for it, but they continue to to win games. They continue to prove that they're, one of the middle of the pack, maybe top of the middle of the pack when it comes to Big Ten teams. And this is going to be Rutgers' first big test. And I don't know how they fare.
Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking. I think the only answer for next man up running back is Jashawn Benjamin. I think that's the only really answer. You got Raymond and Benjamin, kind of like 1-2 punch, you could say, but obviously mostly Antoine Raymond. But you're right. I mean, you look at this game against Iowa, and you know that, look, they have to go bowling this year. They need to win this game against Iowa. That's pretty much it, because after that, the schedule gets pretty tough. And, the blackout, home in front of the fans, this is going to be a crazy atmosphere SHI Friday night, and Rutgers has to take advantage of that and win that game, just like they did against last year against Washington. That's pretty much it.
And another thing that can't be understated is not just the players, but the coaches, right? You look at Iowa, you know that Kirk Ferentz has been there forever, the all-time most winningest coach in Big Ten football history.
Yeah.
This is a really tough test for a Rutgers team who hasn't really faced adversity, and I shouldn't say that. They've faced adversity, but I feel like this is a different level of adversity, right? You kind of saw it a little bit in the Ohio game, the season opener. Things got a little dicey, 3-point win, not what you wanted. But this is a Big Ten football team now. This is a team that you have never beat. Rutgers is 0-4 against Iowa.
Yeah.
This and you look at the schedule, this is a game that Rutgers has to win if they want to go bowling. Realistically, you look at the remainder of the schedule, right? You have a lot of tough away games. You have back-to-back away games at Minnesota and at Washington. You come home to play Oregon. I mean, come on. And then granted, it gets a little easier. You go on the road against Purdue. But you look at the schedule and you say 6 wins gets you to a bowl game. We all know that. Well, you have 3 already, right? Taking Iowa out of the equation, there's only 2 games on this schedule that I see Rutgers as favorites, if not heavy favorites in. Every other game is a toss-up or Rutgers is going to be an underdog. And oh, by the way, guess what Rutgers doesn't do? Rutgers doesn't win games they're not supposed to win. When was the last time that Rutgers won a football game that they were not supposed to win? You can argue maybe Minnesota last year, but it's different this year because you're on the road against Minnesota. You can argue maybe they shouldn't have won the Washington game last year, but you're on the road against Washington this year. And oh, by the way, you needed 3 missed field goals to win that game. You're not going to beat Oregon. And if you do, they might put a statue of Greg Schiano in front of SHI Stadium.
Yeah.
But it's cause for concern, I think, because if you lose this game against Iowa, it then becomes a little bit dicey as far as where do you get the other 3 wins. 2 of them, I think, are locks. I think Maryland and Purdue are both games that Rutgers should win. But you saw what happened against Illinois last year. And they're, again, a ranked team. You're probably not going to beat Ohio State. You're probably not going to beat Penn State. Where do those 3 wins come from, Matt?
Yeah, that's really the question. You got to find a way to win on the road. I guess probably against Illinois or Minnesota. That's probably my answer for you, because you mentioned, obviously, Purdue and Maryland as basically locks. Those other Big Ten gauntlets, blue blood programs, you're not going to win. So if you somehow lose to Iowa, you need to then beat Illinois or beat Minnesota on the road. You could say if I'm wrong, but I think Minnesota's more likely to beat Minnesota on the road than beat Illinois on the road, I'd say.
Yeah, I believe so.
But, it's still, like you said, on the road, not easy, and they're still going to be the underdog. So, it's really like if they don't win this Iowa game, there'll be a lot more concern from Rutgers fans.
Yeah, and I think the way they either win or lose the game is going to tell a big story as far as what this team looks like for the rest of the season. Yes, there are some games that you look at and you go, we know what's going to happen in those games. Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. You hate to be the bearer of bad news. Rutgers doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic here. But I think the biggest question that can either be answered or exemplified in that game against Iowa is going to be whether the defense can hold and whether the defense can be a good defense. Because if they come out and play the way that they played against Miami of Ohio, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
Now, if they come out and they play well against a solid Big Ten offense, it's a different story. I think the whole season people become more optimistic. Because I don't think the offense is not the question mark this year. The offense is going to put up points. They put up, 139 points in 3 games. I don't know what the math is on that, but that's how many points per game is that? It's a good amount.
I need a calculator for that too.
But you think about it. When was the last time you could sit here and say that you have no fear in the Rutgers offense? Who scores 46 points per game?
Yeah. The offense isn't the problem. It's the defense. And now with the injuries, it's even more worrisome. So
yeah,
we'll really see how they handle this test.
And this is not recency bias. This is not over-exaggerating the success of the offense. This may be the best offense that Rutgers has seen in a decade. Honestly, with the way that Ethan's playing, he was rated one of the top, I want to say 3 or 5 highest graded quarterbacks by PFF in his first 3 games. You have a number 1 target in Ian Strong, who's been amazing. KJ Duff is having a breakout season. DT Sheffield is both a deep ball threat and can create separation no matter what. And the run game is what the run game is. This is the best offense that Rutgers has seen in probably a decade. And it could do special things, I think. But I think it will also be limited by what the defense can do. And never in a million years did I think that'd be the case.
Yeah, it's kind of like flip-flopped.
It's kind of what we saw with basketball last year, too. Basketball was always, Coach Peichel was a big defensive guy. You hold him under 65, you win a game. No, the games Rutgers won, it was like 85-80.
Yeah.
And now I think you see a lot more shootouts with the Rutgers football team. I think you see more 34-31 games. You see more 35-28 games. This weekend, I just can't see it being that. Honestly, this weekend, I could see it being a 3-point game, maybe like 24-14, or no, it'd be a 10-point game, 24-14, 24-7, something like that. I really have high hopes for this team on Friday, but I'm also cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, it's like you think that Rutgers can hold Iowa to like 14 points?
Defensively, no.
That's what I'm saying.
But then again, on the other side, do you think that their offense can
against that Iowa defense
beat Iowa's defense for 20+ points?
It remains to be seen.
And it'll be probably the best atmosphere you see from Rutgers all year. The blackout game always is. Last year was electric. And it'll be nice to see SHI Stadium sold out, practically sold out. I'm sure they'll announce a sellout. But yeah, I think this is big for Rutgers because then, like I said, you go on the road for 2 straight games, and then you come home against one of the top 10 teams in the country right now. It's not easy. It doesn't get a whole heck of a lot easier for the Scarlet Knights, but this game will say a lot about what this team can do. And for our hopes and for the hopes of the fans, we hope they can go bowling. But I could see the ceiling, honestly, for this team at this point. Let's see. If you win, let's see. So it'll be 4, 5, 6.
The ceiling's probably 7.
I would say 7 or 8 wins.
Yeah, I'd say 7.
But that's winning all your away games.
I think it's 7.
Up until
I don't think they win
Ohio
8
State.
games.
The floor for this team, realistically,
6 and 6.
Let's see. I'm saying lose to Iowa, lose to Minnesota, lose to Washington.
Oh God.
1, 2, 3. Lose to Oregon. 4,
5 and 7.
5. Yeah, 5 and 7. I'm counting losses against every team except Purdue and Maryland. I think that's the absolute floor, and it would be a disservice because this team is really good offensively. I think they have the talent defensively. It just hasn't been there.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of getting everybody on the same page and Coach Schiano putting together a team that can hold their own against some of the best in the Big Ten. I would love to see it. I really hope it happens. I'm sure Rutgers fans would hope it happens. especially after years of disappointment. But we shall see. It's a tough schedule.
We'll
Big
see,
Ten football is always interesting, to say the least. But a little bit of different things that we don't usually talk about. We have Rutgers basketball. Matt, you and I just came from the Rutgers basketball media day. You got to sit in on practice. We got to talk to some players, got to talk to head coach Steve Peichel. I'll ask you first, since you'll be probably the one covering the team. What is your mindset after media day? I know you haven't seen them play a real game, but hearing from coach, talking to the players, what is your overall mindset about this team in 2025 and 2026?
I think they're in a really weird spot right now because we all were, amassed in the glitz and the glamour of Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey last season. But now that it ended and the way it ended, you kind of sit down and think to yourself, like, okay, what next? What happens now? Because the season was a failure. The season was a disaster. I don't care any excuses you make. Peichel did not have a good season with that team. That team completely stunk. Not completely stunk, but they stunk. They were not good. They cannot win games, honestly. They had to win shootouts. But yeah, so then it was a question of what happens with the team players who were coming back, and a lot of them left. Jermichael Davis stayed, but Jeremiah Williams gone, Jordan Durkak gone, Layton Somerville gone, and then the guys like PJ Hayes and Zach Martini just kind of were out of eligibility. They're done. So you could look at the team now this season, and it's a lot of new faces. It is a lot of new faces. Probably the most. This probably might be the roster with the most newcomers I've probably in program history. You have to imagine
it's
4 returners.
4 returners out of 13 or 14 players.
14 scholarship players, 4 returners, 10 newcomers.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I don't even know how many are freshmen. I think there's 3 transfers and 7 freshmen, or 6 freshmen, 4 transfers. I should be looking at it, but yeah. So it's a really new look team, and I guess what I wanted to figure out with the practice was just kind of like how the team is, how they look, and it's practice, so I can't really say a lot, but they did look pretty good in practice. Honestly, like they were playing a fast paced. They were rebounding a lot. Rebounding drills like crazy, free throw drills like crazy. The little 5-on-5s they did was definitely high paced, very, very chaotic. Jermichael Davis and Tariq Francis seem to be the 2, I would say, guards, like starting guards, like interchangeable guards. We'll see how guys like Caden Powers and Lino Mark getting there playing as well, but Tariq Francis and Jermichael Davis seem to be the main number 1s for that. And then another position I was really curious to see was center. You got Emmanuel Ogbole, you got Javonte Ware, a freshman, and then you got by fall. He was a McDonald's All-American in high school, so he was a very highly touted recruit. Rutgers was trying to get him. Didn't. He went to, I think, Arizona or Arkansas. Excuse me. He went to Arkansas. Now he's here on the banks. I spoke to him a little bit at media day. He mentioned the coaching staff. One thing I got to mention is a lot of the freshmen and the transfers, when I ask about what brought them here, they always say the coaching staff. So, people will maybe hate on Peichel, but I got to say, his coaching staff, Coach Knight, Coach Thompson, Coach Smoke, these guys are really good recruiters. That is something I have to say. They always get the guys they want, for the most part, you could say. But, yeah, I mean, you look at the team, and you're definitely thinking this team's going to be, probably below 500 again. I think the question is just, I think the thing is people aren't expecting much, so it's how much can they surprise people, if at all, if they surprise people.
Yeah, I think that is a great way to put it. I think there's less expectations on this team, which typically I feel like is better for a team. When you have all those expectations and you fall short, it's like the world's coming down around you, right? When you have younger players and you don't have the expectations, we've seen it with Rutgers. That's where they thrive. I mean, Coach Peichel said it in the press conference, or the scrum that we had. He basically said, we've done it with less. They talked about having 2 of the best players in program history in Dylan and Ace last year, not making it to the tournament. And basically his answer was, hey, we made it to not the Big Ten tournament. We made it to the NCAA tournament with no 5 stars, no 4 stars, no 3 stars, and a bunch of 2 stars. Wouldn't be the first time. And I feel like that's more so his coaching style than having those 2 big players. And overall, I'm very interested to see what this team ends up being. I think the addition of some of the overseas players will be a nice change of pace. I think in talking to a lot of the players, they're a very physical, defensive-oriented team.
Oh, yeah. They're big.
Very big.
They're big this year.
Which is what you expect from a Steve Peichel team. I mean, you look at the roster, right? Let's see. I think Tariq Francis and Leno Marks
and Jermichael Davis
and Jermichael Davis, the three shortest. So
they're the guards.
Yeah, so 6'1", 6'2", 6'2", and then Keaton Power is 6'4". But then once you get past them, Bryce Dortch 6'9", Darren Buchanan Jr. 6'7", Dylan Grant 6'8", Chris Woolley 6'8", and then you mentioned him by fall 6'11". These are all big guys.
And Agbole 6'10".
And Agbole, yeah.
Javonte Ware 6'9".
Harun Zrone.
Yeah.
Did I say that right? Zrone. 6'7" as well. So
I think it's Zerno. It's Harun Zerno, yeah.
Big players all around. I think the expectations will be less this season, but I think the product will be better. I think overall they're a more balanced team, and I think that's more so what Rutgers fans expect. So I'm not saying I expect a lot from this team, but I expect a little bit more success maybe than last year.
I mean, yeah, I think, 15 and 17 last season, first round Big Ten tournament loss. If you put that record on this team this year, that's not terrible, honestly. It's not. 15 and 17, it's a little disappointing, but like with the team they have now, it's, in the season they had last year, I mean, I don't know. I think they're going to be a defense first team again. They're going to be physical. They're going to be a rebounding team first, which, again, that's what Rutgers fans knows and loves. Last year was a complete anomaly. Anomaly. I can't even say it. Look at me. I can't. That's why I write it and not speak it. But, last season was uncharacteristic from Rutgers. Obviously, scoring the most points or average most points they ever had in program history, whatever, all that. This team, they're going to be trying to go back to that 65 speed limit, Peichel speed limit we know and love. And then the offense the question is who's going to step up? You probably look at Tariq Francis. He led the NJIT and their conference last year. I think we had like 19.2 points per game. But again, how's that transition go from that? I think it's the American East, that conference is, to the Big Ten. That's a massive difference. How will he even average 10 points per game in the Big Ten? That remains to be seen. And then you look at the international guys. They're going to be 3-point shooters. So the question is, who's going to score? Who's going to be the main man? That's what we got to find out. And I think if they find guys who can actually score and can contribute that way, I think the team will be not great, but they'll be okay.
Yeah, without a doubt. But we shall see. Only time will tell. I believe, beginning of November is the start of the season for Rutgers.
Yeah.
They're going to be playing the Players Era tournament again, so we'll see this team match up against some of the best teams in the country. But that's all we have for today. I want to thank you guys so much for listening as always. You can find us on Instagram at The Daily Targum, as well as on YouTube at that same handle, or you can go on to thedailytargum.com to view all the podcasts, Rutgers Rundown articles, whatever you might want to find. But this is what we got for episode 14. Matt Mangam, Nick Hart signing off for now.